Right now, as you're listening to this, somewhere a man is sitting in silence, shrinking himself just to keep a woman comfortable. I've seen it happen more times than I can count. A guy apologizing for making more money than his girlfriend because she feels insecure. Another man abandoning the dream he's been building since childhood because his wife calls it unrealistic. And somewhere else, a man is quitting the gym, losing his strength and discipline because the woman he loves gets anxious every time he starts improving himself. The saddest part? Every single one of them thinks he's doing the right thing. They've convinced themselves that sacrifice equals love, that erasing who they are will somehow save the relationship. But what they're actually doing is killing themselves slowly, piece by piece, day by day. And the world keeps clapping, telling them that this is noble, that this is masculinity, that this is what a good man does. But let me tell you something blunt, something nobody ever told me when I needed to hear it. The moment you allow someone else to define your value, especially someone who benefits from you staying weak, the game is already over. You've already handed them the keys to your identity, to your peace, to your future. And trust me, they will use those keys. Not always out of malice, but out of instinct. Because the weaker you become, the stronger they feel. You were trained for this since the day you were born. Society taught you that being easy to control is the same as being kind, that being convenient for everyone around you makes you a good man, that your worth is measured by how much you sacrifice, how much you tolerate, and how quietly you endure pain. They conditioned you to believe that strength is selfish and that boundaries are disrespectful. But ask yourself this: who benefits? Every time you're told to be a real man, stop and think. Who gains from this version of manhood? When they say a real man provides, who gets the resources? When they say a real man never complains, who gains from your silence? When they say a real man sacrifices himself, who lives comfortably off that sacrifice? Because one thing becomes painfully clear when you zoom out. The man never wins in this equation. He only gives, he only bends, he only breaks, and the world applauds while watching him crumble under the expectations he never agreed to carry.
I remember a guy I once spoke to. Built a company from nothing. Blood, sweat, nights without sleep. But his girlfriend constantly whined that he worked too much. So he slowed down for her. He put his foot on the brake. Predictably, the business started sinking. Profits dropped. Stress rose. And do you know what she did? She complained even louder. Suddenly, the lifestyle wasn't good enough. Suddenly, he wasn't providing enough. And when he went back to grinding to save the business, she threatened to leave, accusing him of caring more about work than her. He was stuck in a trap designed for him to lose from every angle. Work more, you're selfish. Work less, you're a failure. Focus on your mission, you're neglecting her. Focus on her, you're losing everything you built. And this man sat in front of me looking broken, convinced he was somehow in the wrong, convinced he wasn't enough, convinced that being a man meant pleasing everyone but himself. I asked him one question. Bad by whose definition? You should have seen his face. That was the moment he finally understood. The moment he realized he had handed the power of defining his worth to someone who never contributed to the success she depended on. Someone who loved the results but hated the process. Someone who never built anything yet felt entitled to dictate how a builder should live. This is what happens to men who don't know their value. They get shaped, bent, manipulated, drained, and reprogrammed into tools instead of human beings. Their entire personality is slowly replaced with a version that serves everyone but themselves. And it starts way earlier than you think. From childhood, from school, from culture. You were taught to give in to girls because they need it more. You were punished harsher than them for the same behavior. You were told that your aggression, your ambition, your hunger for growth were flaws, not natural male instincts. By the time you grew up, you were already primed to believe your life should revolve around female approval. And that's exactly why so many men end up exploited. Not because women are villains, but because men are trained to be blind. A man who doesn't know his value is a goldmine for anyone who wants control. He will tolerate disrespect. He will accept double standards. He will destroy his health, his goals, his friendships, his ambition just to avoid disappointing someone who wouldn't sacrifice a fraction of that for him. And the truth is brutal. The world fears strong men. Not the loud, angry kind, but the disciplined, self-governed, independent kind. The man who knows his worth is impossible to manipulate, impossible to guilt, impossible to shame. That's why every system around you tries to break you before you learn how powerful you are. If you feel this in your bones, if you see your own life in these words, then stay with me, because what comes next will change the way you see everything.
If you're still here listening, then you already feel the weight of what I'm saying. And now we go deeper, into the part most men never see until it's too late. The part where your entire identity gets rewritten without you even noticing. See, the real exploitation doesn't happen when a woman uses you directly. It happens when she convinces you to use yourself on her behalf. That's the highest level of manipulation. When she gets you to willingly sacrifice your goals, your energy, your potential, not through force, but through guilt, shame, and emotional dependency. Most men don't recognize this trap because it doesn't look like manipulation. It looks like love. It looks like compromise. It looks like being a good partner. But in reality, it's a slow psychological erosion. Every time you suppress your desires to keep the peace, every time you mute your ambitions to make her feel secure, every time you shrink so she can feel big, you carve out another piece of yourself and hand it over. And here's the insane part. The more of yourself you give, the less attractive you become. You think being gentle, compliant, endlessly supportive makes you a better man. In her eyes, it makes you disposable. Women don't bond with men they can dominate. They bond with men they respect. And respect dies the moment she realizes you'll break yourself just to keep her comfortable. You think sacrifice earns love, but all it really earns is entitlement. The more she sees you bend, the more she expects you to bend. The more you avoid saying no, the more she pushes past your boundaries. You're teaching her every day that your limits don't matter. And if you don't value your limits, why should she? I once watched a close friend go through this. Brilliant guy. Talented, disciplined, ambitious. He used to dream big, talked about starting a company, traveling, mastering his craft. And then he fell for a woman who made every one of those dreams seem like a threat. Every time he leveled up, she would get jealous, insecure, or angry. When he wanted to take a new job, she said it was too far. When he wanted to train harder at the gym, she accused him of wanting to impress other women. When he wanted to spend time with his friends, she called them immature. And do you know what he did? He gave it all up, little by little, until nothing was left but a shell of the man he used to be. And the punchline? The day he finally became the version she wanted, she left him. Because he wasn't the man she fell in love with anymore. Women love the outcome of a strong man, but they hate the process that creates him. They admire discipline, but resent the hours it takes. They envy your ambition, but complain when it demands sacrifice. They want the leader, but try to clip his wings to keep him within reach. It's not intentional cruelty. It's instinct. They want the finished product, not the forging. And if you don't know your worth, you let them interrupt the forging.
You allow the very thing that makes you a man, your mission, to be replaced by their comfort. You stop chasing excellence and start chasing approval. And the moment you choose approval over purpose, you become prey. Not because she's a predator, but because you've abandoned your spine. Let's talk about the most dangerous phrase men hear today. Be a real man. It's never used to uplift you, it's always used to control you. When she wants money, she tells you to provide. When she wants emotional labor, she tells you not to complain. When she wants a favor, she tells you to sacrifice. When she wants obedience, she tells you not to argue. But when was the last time someone told you that a real man protects his boundaries, or that a real man pursues his mission without apology, or that a real man says no to anything that weakens him? Nobody teaches men the version of masculinity that benefits them. Society only teaches the version that benefits others. And it's wild how normalized this exploitation has become. A woman can demand a man earn 6 figures, be emotionally available, stay loyal, be fit, be confident, be ambitious, be protective, be dominant, and people clap. But the moment a man says he wants feminine energy, loyalty, kindness, or a healthy body, suddenly he's toxic, controlling, insecure, or shallow. Female preferences are celebrated. Male preferences are demonized. Why? Because confident men with standards cannot be controlled. A man who knows his worth is a threat. A man who questions social expectations is a threat. A man who chooses his mission over validation is a threat. Because he cannot be guilted, manipulated, or shamed into compliance. That's why society attacks male spaces. That's why male bonding is discouraged. That's why discipline is mocked unless it benefits someone else. A united brotherhood of men who know their value would dismantle the entire system built on their submission. So instead, men are raised alone, confused, lost, taught to please, taught to perform, taught to obey, taught to see themselves through the eyes of women instead of through the lens of their own potential. But here's the shift you must make if you want your life to change. Detach your value from how much you serve women. Your worth is not measured by sacrifice. Your worth is not measured by suffering. Your worth is not measured by how good you are at being used. Your worth is measured by your strength, your discipline, your mind, your skill, your integrity, your ability to build and defend something that is yours. When you stop centering women in every decision you make, when you stop filtering your goals through their approval, when you stop shrinking to avoid conflict or insecurity, the entire structure that once controlled you collapses. And for the first time, you see clearly. You see the manipulation. You see the double standards. You see the traps disguised as love. You see how your own desire to be accepted made you blind. But in that clarity, something else is born. Something powerful. The man you were always meant to be. If you're ready, we'll go even deeper, because the final part will flip everything you thought you knew about your worth, your relationships, and your future.
Let me take you into the final layer of this truth, the layer most men never reach, because they break long before they get here. This is where the real transformation happens. This is where you stop being a resource and start being a force. Because here's the darkest part. The moment a woman realizes you don't know your value, she stops treating you like a man and starts treating you like a utility. Not out of evil, not out of cruelty, but because that's how human nature works. People use what they can use. They push where there's no resistance. They take from the hand that keeps giving, especially when the hand doesn't know how to close. When a man doesn't value himself, he becomes the easiest thing in the world to exploit. Not because women are monsters, but because men are trained to be blind. And this blindness makes you predictable. The man who doesn't know his worth is the man who apologizes for everything. He apologizes for being busy. He apologizes for being ambitious. He apologizes for having boundaries. He apologizes for wanting respect. He apologizes for not being perfect. He apologizes for having a life outside her. Until eventually, he apologizes for existing. And she watches it happen, slowly, gradually, year after year. She sees that every time she pushes, he folds. Every time she guilt-trips him, he caves. Every time she demands more, he gives. She doesn't lose respect all at once. She loses it drip by drip, until one day she looks at him and feels nothing. Not hatred, not love, just emptiness. Because you cannot desire a man you can control. And by the time he realizes it, it's too late. His value is already gone. Not because he didn't have value, but because he gave it away piece by piece to keep someone happy who was only happy when he stopped being himself. Women don't fall for men who abandon themselves. They fall for men who protect themselves. Let me tell you something most men never understand. A woman's attraction doesn't die because you're not good enough. It dies because you betrayed your own potential. Nothing kills attraction faster than watching a man choose comfort over greatness. Watching him shrink instead of rise. Watching him trade his mission for her mood swings. Watching him abandon what makes him powerful in exchange for approval. She can't admire a man who fears upsetting her more than he fears losing himself. And here's where it gets even darker. The same woman who once told you to slow down will admire another man for his ambition. The same woman who told you to stop going to the gym will drool over the guy who never skipped a workout. The same woman who told you your goals were unrealistic will brag about another man's achievements.
Not because she is heartless, but because deep down, women admire what they cannot control and suffocate what they can. And when a man finally realizes this, truly realizes it, something inside him breaks. But it's a good break. It's the snap of chains he didn't know were there. Men think heartbreak destroys them. It doesn't. Heartbreak reveals them. When she leaves, when she cheats, when she loses respect, when she throws away everything you built together, that's not the collapse, that's the awakening. Because suddenly, you see the world without the conditioning. You begin to notice the double standards that were invisible before. You notice how often you were silent to avoid conflict. You notice how many dreams you buried in the name of love. You notice how many times you said yes when your soul screamed no. And then something beautiful happens. You rebuild. Not for her, not for validation, not for approval, for yourself. You go back to the gym, you go back to your goals, you go back to your purpose. You go back to the man you were before life convinced you that being weak makes you lovable. And this time, you don't lose him again. You stop letting people shame you into shrinking. You stop apologizing for being ambitious. You stop letting manipulation eat away at your confidence. You stop negotiating your boundaries like they are coupons. And here is the twist nobody tells you. The moment you stop living for female approval, that's when women start noticing you. Not because you're chasing,
but because you're rising. A man who knows his value doesn't argue, he decides. He doesn't beg, he walks away. He doesn't shrink, he grows. He doesn't ask for permission, he builds his own path. And that kind of man, the self-governed, self-respecting, self-directed man, is nearly extinct today. That's why he's so powerful. That's why he's so magnetic. That's why his presence feels different. A strong man is rare. A free man is sacred. A man who knows his worth is unstoppable. So here's what I want you to sit with. Every moment you spend trying to impress someone who contributes nothing to your growth, every time you water dead plants, every time you break your own rules to keep someone comfortable, every time you trade your mission for momentary peace, you are teaching the world how to treat you. And the world will never value a man who doesn't value himself. You want to stop being exploited? Stop being available. Stop being adjustable. Stop being predictable. Stop letting people define your worth. Because the day you reclaim your value, the day you say no and mean it, the day you stop bending for approval, that is the day you stop being used and you start being respected.